like a memory question. It's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say person, woman, man, camera, TV. Could you repeat that? Person, woman, man, camera, TV. So I said, yeah. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. That's very good. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say person, woman, man, camera, TV. Could you repeat that? Person, woman, man, camera, TV. So I said, yeah. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. That's very good. Extra points, extra points. Get it in order, you get extra points. Other questions, extra points. Good. Extra points. 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, can you do that again? You know, if you repeat them out of order.
Hey, Obama, eat your heart out. Folks, welcome to The Reset with Nico, Bleu, and Kenny Burns. That's me. It's July. What is today? Because I don't have the right day. Let me start.
27th, Ken.
I was about to go to
you have
2 weeks.
One job. One job.
Yeah. We was going back in time. We was going back to talking about other stuff. It is July 27th, this 2020. Nico, I am terrible when it comes to like wearing masks. Like I'll be doing the dumbest stuff. So
what do you mean?
So I'll have my mask on and a song will come on or something like that, and I just start whistling. Can't whistle with a mask on. I'll
whistle with a mask. I've never tried that.
I'll have
that's the new challenge, a new mask challenge.
The mask challenge.
Can
you whistle?
Can you whistle in your mask? I can whistle in my mask.
My other stupid thing is, and I do this constantly. I'll see something on my phone, some like little debris, and I'll blow on it because what I do. I just blow on my phone.
If you're able to blow through your mask is not doing anything.
And the funniest thing is, I have seen some problematic masks. So like, there are people that they want to get all like sexy with their mask and something.
What do you mean? What's like mask sexy? I don't understand.
So, have you seen any of these people with like lace masks? Like you can kind of see their face still, but it's like, I've seen that.
Oh, it's like sheer, like a sheer material. Like, are you kidding me? No, I haven't seen that. Thank goodness.
It's pretty bad. Well, I've actually seen a live one that was it was like during the beginning of the pandemic. So one of my favorite ones is this lady literally in front of me at a Kroger. She's wearing like, I don't know, like you know those IKEA bags? They're like the eco bags.
The big blue ones?
Big blue ones, yeah. It was something like that, but she just had it like over her head. And then she would like lift it up when she needed to like get out of somebody's way or do something or pay for something. She would do this. And I'm just like.
She had a bag over her head?
Yes, I am dead serious. I'm not joking.
How did she see?
That's what I'm saying. She would lift it up. She would just look at the ground to walk normally. And then when she needed to like look at a person or get out of somebody's way or pay, she would lift it up and all of that. Now I'm just looking at her
sounds dangerous.
Like, you're gonna get corona, like it's inevitable. That is the fate
just on
of you.
GP, just on general principle, like the universe is gonna be like, you know what, lady, I'm sorry, that was foolish. Boom.
Corona.
And you got corona'd. It's not funny. It's not funny.
Happening.
We should not joke about that.
I'm hopeful that the lady didn't get corona, but she probably got corona. Okay.
Damn. Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, so let's. Our phones are both about to die. So
we are a mess today, guys. I'm sorry.
All right. First up, we got Kanye. As everybody knows, Kanye has been having a very public manic episode. I guess the biggest explosion was at his campaign rally. Right. In South Carolina. And I think that's where the world kind of really grasped the fact that, oh, this is a different situation. This isn't just Kanye being Kanye or Kanye being a narcissist. He's not okay. He was crying. He was divulging very personal information. And then one of the most popular things that people have talked about, that infamous statement about Harriet Tubman not really freeing the slaves. And so then this rally was followed up over the next week or so with just more tweets talking about his wife in a very unfavorable way, saying that he's been trying to divorce her, saying that she's cheated on him, calling his mother-in-law
Chris Jong-un, yeah,
a dictator.
Right.
So yeah, that's where we are. He's at his ranch in Wyoming. He's fortunately had, you know, a lot of people who care about him and are concerned about him, you know, going out there kind of doing welfare checks on him, notably Dave Chappelle,
Yeah.
Damon Dash, Justin Bieber. I'm sure there have been many more. He tried to go to the hospital. He's having extreme anxiety, and then the waiting room was too crowded, and that gave him even more anxiety. So the doctors came to his house and they checked him out. They said his vitals are okay, but as we know, Kanye is not okay.
Right. Now, the statement that Kim put out about this whole situation, it was pretty remarkable. It informed me because I still have my prejudgments on, you know, this sort of thing, and I'm still trying to learn about it myself. And it had a lot of it asked for a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy about his situation. It addressed the loss of his mother, so it kind of gave you a window into his soul a little bit, which I really appreciated, you know, her doing. And I think he did too, because later on, like within the last couple of days, he's apologized to her for, you know, putting her through this and this, that, and the other. But it seems as though he's still at odds with Chris, her mother. But for me, it's always been, when I deal with people like this, it's been just hard for me to understand, because I'm like, I understand the mental illness part of it. I get that. But what I don't understand sometimes is the lack of control. So like a lot of times when people are manic, there's a tendency to maybe compulsively lie, or very high energy, or there's this need to do whatever you want to do right then and there. It has to be done at that moment. Like, you got to do it now. Otherwise you start to get irritated and feel some kind of way, and that sort of thing. And so when I'm around that, or when I have been around that, I've gotten agitated, because I'm like, you know, calm down, settle down, or you know, I'm trying to control the situation in a situation that's uncontrollable.
That's the thing that's been really hard for me to watch as this whole thing has unfolded. I'll be the first to say, I've already said on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, I'm no Kanye fan. He lost me years ago, and I've never been any fan of the Kardashians. I'm just, so I certainly would not cape for any of them, anyone in that clan. But when I see so many people just be completely misinformed and judgmental about mental health, it's frustrating and it's upsetting to me. I happen to have dealt with multiple people in my life who are bipolar and who have suffered greatly because of this disorder. And if you have not experienced it personally in your life, you do not know what it's like. You do not know. So I see people who are like educated and informed, and who I look up to and whose opinions I value, you know, saying things like, there is no way his family is down for him. They can't love him if they allowed him to go on that stage. And why don't they just medicate him? Why don't they just make him take his meds? And it's like, people, that's not the way it works. He is a grown man. And we already know the type of person he is, even when he's not having a manic episode. He's narcissistic. He is, you know, wildly opinionated and in control of his life. And he has bottomless pockets, which is another thing. Like, that is a person that is uncontrollable. So he does what he wants to do. He can go where he wants to go, and he chooses whether or not he takes his medication. And there is not a single thing that anybody else can do to make him do that. Now, if he becomes violent and starts to indicate that he is a threat to himself or to other people, then that's when things can happen. And that's when things like 5150, or, you know, or being able to sort of forcibly get somebody committed into a treatment program.
Right.
But if they are not showing signs of that, you cannot make someone, it doesn't matter how erratic their behavior is, how problematic, you can't make someone get treatment. You can't make someone take their meds. And the only option you have, and it's highly illegal, is to like secretly drug them. But you better be willing to do some jail time, some serious jail time, if you ever resorted to something like that. So the fact that they were saying that, you know, there's no way his wife loves him, there's no way his family loves him. Like I said, I'm not a fan of this family, but I do believe they are very loyal people. And I believe that they have been very loyal to Kanye, and I believe that they have loved him. He's great for what they try to put out in the world. He's great for them. Well, he was until, you know, he has episodes like this. But to expect a woman who has 4 small children to be chasing him, like we're seeing this now, like we're seeing this explosion as he's on stage in South Carolina. But they have been dealing with that year after year after year, month after month, week after week, the things that they have seen that we know nothing about, dealing with somebody with this type of mental illness, because it's very different from depression. It's very different from just general anxiety disorder. Bipolar is very, very specific. And dealing with somebody like that it's almost the same way that you have to deal with a family member who's an addict.
Right.
Well, especially if a person is not willing to get treatment. It's like you can try and you try and you try, and then at a certain point, the experts will tell you, you have to sort of let them go and let them do what they're going to do, so that they, if they have to hit rock bottom or get into a situation that kind of gets through to them, to make them decide, okay, I'm going to start taking my meds or going in for treatment.
Yeah, and it seems like he's gotten to that point now, but it's still like living through this in the last year or so with someone that is very similar. The apologies always come, you know it's coming, and it's just a matter of, okay, when is this apology going to happen, and how much at face value am I going to take it?
The other thing that she said that I thought was very interesting and kind of like informative, when she said that just it's a common thing for Kanye to say things and express things in a way that don't align with what he really means and feels. Right.
Now, I wanted to bring this up too. What do you think? So Charlemagne kind of brought up an interesting point when he was talking about this, saying that, I don't know why you guys are falling for this. You fall for it all the time. Every time he has an album coming out, he does something like this every time, and we fall for it every time. Why are we falling for it now? And thinking about it, you have brought up this point of other, with August and other celebrities. It's like anytime there's
I brought this up with him too. Yeah.
Anytime there's a major incident going on with these people, there's a project somewhere looming. And so what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think this is just a real episode, or is it publicity? Or could it be both?
I think he's having a real episode. I mean, possibly both. I think maybe that's why he is choosing to be more public right now. He's trying to, like, anytime any type of artist is getting ready to promote something, you're like, okay, I got to start being more visible. I got to start communicating more. I got to start tweeting. I got to get on the gram. I got to, so he's probably, thinking in general, he needs to be engaging more because of the project. But I think he is absolutely having a real life episode.
Yeah.
It just looks that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think seeing it with my own 2 eyes and understanding what he's going through or what's happening, it's definitely real. I mean,
from that South Carolina video, him bursting into tears spontaneously, like that looked like an episode.
I don't think the project is not far off his mind, in terms of this being good publicity for it. But he's absolutely having a real episode for sure.
The biggest thing that I think about this, though, is that in general, what's best for the public, what's best for Kanye, is that we have got to stop giving him a platform.
Right.
The reason, like all those people who showed up at South Carolina, now I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They didn't understand I guess that maybe that he was having a manic episode. I don't personally think that we should have been entertaining that presidential run to begin with. That was silly and ridiculous and a distraction, like a complete distraction. We have so many really important things going on right now. And the last thing that we need is for young people, particularly young voters, to be distracted by anything. We need to be like together and focused right now. So also, but people need to stop taking his money to put on events and give him a platform like this. Stop giving him a platform, because
that's easier said than done. Yeah,
don't enable this behavior.
You're enabling it, but it's like it's easier said than done when it comes to something like that, because it's like it's Kanye, and that's the part of the issue is not only does he have money, he has power and influence. So if you refuse him, the next man is going to take it. And if the next man doesn't take it, the next man is going to take it.
But that's called having a code of ethics for yourself. Right. That's called having some sort of moral integrity. And, if you don't, you don't. But I'm saying people should be acting with some sort of moral integrity. That's my whole point.
Yeah, I feel you.
I saw a tweet, and this woman said, Kanye has mental illness. Kanye is anti-Black and misogynistic. Kanye's anti-Black and misogynistic behavior is not a result of mental illness. So where is the line as far as some of this outrageous behavior, this Harriet Tubman stuff, even in the past, that slavery was a choice. Some people think that that's potentially a part of the mental illness, and some people are like, no, he shows anti-Black and misogynistic behavior, period, and you can't blame bipolar for that.
I totally agree with that. I don't think you can blame bipolar for a person's ideology. If his ideology is shifted or grown, it's just going to be exacerbated by the disorder. It's not going to mean the disorder is at fault here. So I totally agree with that. No, if that's how he is, that's just how he is. People aren't going to change based on the disorder.
And somebody pointed out, they're like, we've never seen Kanye. Why does he always go for Black people when he's having these episodes? He doesn't start, spewing anti-Semitic, or anti-gay jargon. They're saying just Black people are too forgiving. He can say all of this anti-Black stuff and anti-women stuff, and Black people will still buy his shoes and those weird clothes and, buy his albums and all of that. So,
it's part of us being forgiving. I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. It's just that he doesn't have any sort of accountability. So when you don't have accountability, like if we don't punish him by not buying Yeezys and things like that, then he has no, what they say, when you hit rock bottom is when you really change at times. He doesn't have that rock bottom. Like, he's always going to have money. He's always going to have influence. He's always going to have power.
Yeah, it's like when people start to see negative consequences due to their actions, very often that's when we see change. Okay. Up next, your boy Trump.
Unbelievable cognition. Yeah.
So last week, Trump did an interview with Fox's Chris Wallace. It was a wide-ranging interview. They talked about a lot of different topics. They spent a lot of time on the coronavirus, different aspects of the coronavirus. There was a lot of challenging numbers and fact-checking. They talked about just his general handling of the coronavirus. They talked about the Confederate flag issue. They talked about renaming bases, where he stands in the polls, and just some general thoughts about Biden. What did you think, Kenny, when you watched that?
So much. Oh my God. So just kind of, my first initial reaction was just complete hilarity. I was in stitches laughing during the whole interview because he really thought he was taking it to Chris. Like, he was giving it to him, punching him. He can't punch back. He can't do this. He started with the same stupid trope about testing versus cases. Chris Wallace came back and, you know, gave him facts and, you know, things like that. And he was just, he blames other countries. Like he was blaming Mexico for our corona epidemic, saying that they're making it worse, but never giving a reason as to how or why that's happening. And then lying, saying that if it wasn't for the wall he built, it would be worse. It's amazing the way he tries to manipulate. And so what I started to notice as I was looking at this is he said things specifically not for Chris Wallace. He tried to manipulate Chris Wallace. He saw it wasn't working. So instead he was like, okay, let me make him look like he likes the left. Now let me make him look like he's incompetent, like he doesn't know what he's talking about. And when you confuse and muddy the waters in that way, the people, you tend, when you are confused as a person, you tend to listen to who you trust. I'm saying like the typical Fox viewer, they might like Chris Wallace, but they voted and love Trump. So they're going, when he starts to muddy the waters and confuse things, weird how
he has no issue with just straight
up switching
lying, lying. I mean, we know this. He's been, you know, doing that ever since before he was in office. I mean, even at one point he said that Joe Biden was for defund the police, which unfortunately Joe Biden is not. Right.
And you brought up a good point, because I was going to say, when he brought that up and when he was called out on it immediately, number one, of course, he never had a rebuttal. So he just kind of let that slip in the wind, acting like Chris would never follow up on it, which he did on the program. But it's like, who believes that? Like, why would you believe that? As a Democrat, progressive, we know Biden is not for defunding. We don't like that. We want defunding of the police because we know what it means. We understand it. So we, above all else, understand that he's lying. And it's like, I look at people that have voted for him and I'm like, why can't you guys see it too? Why can't you see that he's manipulating you and lying to you in everything that he does, in everything that he says? Chris Wallace spent at least 15 or 20% of the interview teaching him policy. It was remarkable to see how terrible he was at that.
And then we got into the infamous cognitive test.
Right.
And it was very cool because Chris is like, I took the test since you've been talking this up so much. I took the test. And he was like, it really wasn't that hard. He's like, actually, at the end, you just had to identify a drawing of an elephant as an elephant. He
actually doubled down. You know, the interview he did with Mark Siegel a few days later, he doubled down on this test. It wasn't bad enough that Chris kind of just let it go. He was like, I got other stuff I got to get to. We're just going to move on from that. And he was doing him a favor. And he can't get out of his own way. And he brought this up with Mark Siegel, who's apparently a doctor, by the way. And he started talking about how he could remember person, woman, man, camera, TV. Obviously, he was looking at what he was going through.
Person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Right. Yeah. He was seeing that as he was saying it. So I'm sure that wasn't on the test. But it's just the fact that you thought that was a difficult thing to remember. And I'm like, come on, dude. There are rappers that remember 15 minutes
right
of reciting a rap. You know, like it's not that difficult, man, to remember 5 words from 10 minutes ago that you were tested on. It's not that difficult. But he doubled down on it.
And I think he thinks that it has something to do with his intelligence or his IQ. I think and I'm like, that is not what the test is.
Yeah. I mean, he said some pretty incendiary things. Like, we can't go through everything, but one of the most incendiary things to me was every time Chris brought up the fact that Black people are killed by police at a disproportionate rate. And Chris even said in his statement, per capita. So that you can't say the numbers are higher.
Right. More white people are killed. Yes.
Yeah. And he
ignored it.
He ignored it and basically said, by the way, white people are too. Like, where's that argument?
Many white people. I'm like, don't you think that's a problem too? Like, why are you offering that as like, oh, well, it's okay because other people are killed. Yes, that's terrible. That's a terrible argument. Not to mention it's false. It's a false equivalence. but it's also just a terrible argument.
It's
When you've got,
argument.
countries around the world where they have numbers like in terms of the number of people that are killed by police each year, and they've got numbers in the single digits, like 7.
Exactly.
9.
7. Right.
Right. And we're at like over 1,000.
And I'm not even going to get into guns, but a lot of those killings aren't even with weapons. It's like there's a reason why other countries are succeeding at that sort of thing, and we're not. Absolutely. Another incendiary thing he brought up, because he just can't, either wants to foment racism or he just can't handle race at all. And when asked about the Fort Bragg, changing of the name of Fort Bragg, why would you say, what should we name it? Al Sharpton's base?
Like, why did you go there? Of all, yeah.
I'm like, dude, did that really just come out of your mouth? Like,
it did.
But once again, a dog whistle. We talked about dog whistles a few episodes ago. That was a dog whistle. Why in the world would he say Al Sharpton? There's so many other people he could have said.
Or he could have just didn't have to give a name at all. He could have just said, and not to mention, that's foolish to begin with. What are we going to rename it? Well, I'm sure there could be a committee put together to come up with some names and figure out what to name it, just like we name everything else in the world.
Exactly. It's not just that serious. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's like, I don't really have a whole lot to say about this subject of that interview. Although right now, I don't mind him so much having a platform because he keeps looking just stupid. And
Two beautiful wars, too. Do you remember him saying that?
No, I don't. Thank goodness. I couldn't even really pay attention through the whole thing. I was watching it obviously so that we could talk about it, but I was like, why are we talking about this again? Because it's just Trump being Trump. But at 100 days out from the election, I say give him as many opportunities to look stupid.
Shine a spotlight on the stupidity.
And he did go in quite a bit on Joe Biden and, challenging Joe Biden to a cognitive test, challenging Joe Biden to an interview off, just saying that he's not capable of.
Joe Biden is a lot of things. And I mean, he even made a stupid statement earlier in the week. He can make some gaffes. He's a gaffe king. One thing that I've noticed about him, he can debate. So I don't think Trump wants that business. He will eat him alive. I don't think he wants that smoke. He thinks he wants it until he gets it. So yeah, I think that's going to be big trouble for him.
Okay. Next we got Portland.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! It is a mess in Portland right now. We're about 60 days out, I want to say, from when the protests started after George Floyd got murdered. Close to 60 days. And there's some places where the protests have never stopped. Mm-hmm. Portland, I believe, being one of them. And so as we've seen in Portland in the past couple of weeks, federal agents have been deployed into Portland, I guess as a part of Trump's law and order initiative. And it's been really scary what we're seeing there. Yeah. Just complete abuse of force and power against citizens who are protesting peacefully. So these protests were dying out. They were peaceful and they were almost completely finished. The governor of Oregon and the mayor of Portland felt very comfortable that they had things under control. And then Trump deployed feds. And that just escalated the entire situation. And now we're seeing just complete violence. We are seeing things burn, things are getting broken and tagged and all of that. And the most disturbing, I won't even say it's the most disturbing imagery, but some really disturbing imagery is seeing agents that for a while we didn't even know who they were, what agency they were with, wearing camouflage and like a little patch that says police, literally walking up to citizens, snatching them off the street and putting them into an unmarked vehicle and driving off.
Right. Yeah.
And without identifying themselves, identifying who they're with, why the person was being detained, any of that. And so that was downright terrifying because like, who is this? I mean, it's reminiscent of North Korea or the Nazi takeover in Europe, Gestapo, any of those, which is so different from what we would expect of the United States.
Am I to understand, because like when this first started happening, no one really knew this was happening. Like this seemed to be like a secret order, and it just became public over time. Is that right? Is that accurate?
I can't remember how many days that type of behavior had been happening before I started hearing about it and before I started seeing it reported about. But it was kind of slow in even coming to light. And it was the citizens on the ground who were responsible for getting the word out and showing video footage of somebody getting snatched off the street and put in an unmarked car where they're saying, who are you? Why is he being detained? And they were giving no answers, nothing said. Now we are seeing footage of, tear gas, flashbangs. We've got the wall of moms, which has been an amazing thing to see. Just these women who are mothers and they're wearing these yellow shirts and locking arms, creating a wall between the protesters and the feds. Now we also have veterans for Black Lives Matter also creating their own wall between the feds and the wall of moms and the protesters. So it's next level now, and the threat is there. Trump has been threatening to send feds to many other cities, and let's be very clear here that this is politics, because the places that he is sending feds are places that are Democratic run. Yep. And these people, the leadership, they don't want them there. They do not want the feds there. The governors don't want them there. The mayors don't want them there. And this is a part of his campaign for re-election. And it looks like a complete, like another country. It looks like North Korea.
I mean, it goes back to what he said during the interview with Chris Wallace. He specifically stated that liberal cities are ran stupidly. And the most interesting and funny thing about that is he is running an ad currently that shows what Biden's America would look like. But ironically, he's using footage from his America. And it's like, are you guys even confident enough to make an ad where you don't contradict yourself in 30 seconds? It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, that was so asinine. This is what Biden's America would look like. Well, guess what? That footage is from Trump's America.
Exactly.
What are you saying? Yeah.
Think about the guy that you're voting for. I mean, we talked about earlier using the language that some of our politicians are using to describe this as secret, like you said, secret police, kidnapped, authoritarian. Like these are things that shouldn't be described when it comes to what our agents, our federal agents are doing to their own people. This goes to talking about defunding the police. So just to reiterate, everyone thinks that defunding the police, or at least the Republicans want to try to make that the narrative, is that we want police gone. There might be some people that are extremists like that, but that's not what that means. What it means is to move money into areas of better growth and development. That's what it means. Take some of their money that they're getting, and now let's give it to social workers, education, things like that, not to take them away. When I call a cop, I'll give you a story. I haven't told you this story, by the way. So I was driving, it was about 2 or 3 in the morning the other night. I'm driving down the street, no cars on the road. All of a sudden I pull up and there's this young man asleep right in the middle of the street. No shirt on, nothing but his underwear. And so me being who I am, I'm like, I would not feel right going home, falling asleep, knowing that I left this kid on the street. So I get out the car and I start shaking him. And I'm like, come on, man, can I at least get you to the sidewalk? I'm trying to talk to him. And so he's not responding. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just pick him up if he's asleep. And that way I just move him to the sidewalk and he can just whatever.
Wow.
I try to pick him up, and I could easily have picked him up, but I tried to pick him up and he was just like, please don't do that, sir. Please don't touch me. And so
oh no.
saying that, I'm like, well, I'm not about to invade this guy's space. That's not appropriate. Even if he's on the street, whatever, that's not my responsibility. So I was like, okay, well, man, I'm not going to do anything against your will, but would you at least allow me to help you up and get you to the sidewalk? And he was just like, I'm fine. We went on for about 10 minutes. And
Did you tell him you're in the middle of the road?
Yes. He says, I know, and I'll be fine. And so eventually I had to move on. I couldn't just stay there all night. And so I left, and I had to go and charge my car. You know, I'm having an electric car. And so I had to go charge my car before I went home. And so I was thinking about him the whole time. But as I was sitting there charging my car, I was like, in a normal situation, I would call the cops, and the cops would get him off the street and, you know, make sure he's safe. And I said, you know what, but he's probably safer in the middle of the street than me calling the cops on him.
Wow.
Young Black kid. And that was my total 100% reaction, is that he would be safer just letting him stay there in the middle of the street. Now I will say this, when I finally charged my car, it took about 30, 40 minutes, and I went back because I have to go back down that street to go home. He wasn't there. There was no activity. So I assumed everything was fine.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations. Why do we have to think like that now? You know, if I call the police for that situation, I am calling them specifically to help him, not arrest him, not beat him up, not do any of that. Not saying, I don't even know if that would happen, but the thought that is the first thought in my mind after seeing everything that's happened over the last few years, calling a wellness check on this lady, police go to her house and shoot her through her window.
Right.
Like, these are the types of things that I don't want to be a part of, you know? So I feel very comfortable that he probably made it home safe, and I didn't have anything to do with any.
Heard so many stories in the past few weeks of people feeling like that exact same situation. Here's a situation where somebody needs some help, but I don't feel comfortable calling the police. There should be somebody else that you can call for something like that. That is not a situation that we should have to call the police for. There should be, just readily accessible crisis numbers for situations just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wow. That is, I definitely hope he did get home safely.
I feel like he did, because where I charged the car and where he was,
you would have seen.
I would have seen activity. I would have seen lights.
Right. If there was any sirens, and you would have known. Okay, well that's good. Yeah. Hopefully he got it together and got out of the street and got home. Yeah. One of the things that really stood out to me about this whole Portland situation was that a judge last week actually had to make a ruling that the feds could not arrest the media and couldn't arrest just innocent bystanders.
That should just be a given.
And they had to make that ruling is because they were arresting members of the media.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this whole situation is just we just don't have constitutional rights. Is the Constitution just completely out the window? There's no freedom of the press. There's we saw the situation with the Navy veteran, Chris David. He had on his some Navy gear. He walks up to the front lines just because he wanted to ask the feds that were there, how are you feeling about completely going against our Constitution? And there was that video that I'm sure everyone saw of him being beaten and then pepper sprayed in his face. A veteran who wanted to talk about.
You're talking about the tall white dude, right? Yeah, that was so crazy to me. And he took the baton hits like a pro.
He did. Oh yeah.
And he was just like, dude, I'm not even resisting. I'm not doing anything. And they're just beating him. And
right. That is not how this is supposed to work.
Right, dude. Come on, man.
Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, also got tear gassed.
Yeah.
He was out there with the protesters outside of that federal courthouse, and he got tear gassed.
And
it's just
here's the issue with all of these things that you're reporting here. The guy that hit the gentleman with the baton, who is he? we'll never know. I want you guys to see the problem here. You know, whether you agree or not, we should know who this officer is that did that. But because he has impunity, he can just do whatever he wants. And I'm sure a lot of these bloodthirsty guys just signed up for this and like, oh, we get to go as kind of secret police. Oh yeah, I'm gung ho. Let's go beat some.
And that's
lefties.
What the mayors were saying is that when you send federal agents, they have no accountability. They have no knowledge of the local citizens, of the culture there, of anything. And so they have no accountability to the community. So they can just come in and very comfortably tear gas.
But anyway, how are you supposed to, even if the mayors are saying it's not welcome, how are you even supposed to fight against it? Are you going to pit your police
really
versus
can't.
them?
The White House has the ability to do that, and they're exercising it. We'll see. I haven't heard anything. They've been, again, threatening Chicago, Albuquerque, several other cities, but I haven't heard of this level of policing at any place other than Portland. The secret police thing, I haven't heard it anywhere other than Portland. I saw a newscaster, a Fox newscaster, ask the head of Homeland Security, which is one of the agencies that's out there committing these acts, ask, well, why don't you guys just arrest the leaders in these cities since they're not getting it under control? Like, as if that was a viable solution to this problem. Like, oh, well,
right.
the feds should just arrest the mayors or arrest the governors. And, you know.
I swear, I don't think they hear themselves speak sometimes. It's the stuff that comes out of some of these people's mouths. It's like, do you live in America? Do you know the principles that this country is built on? Because you certainly don't act like it. It's strange.
The thing that's just really scary is that what we're seeing looks like a scene out of a movie or a television show. It makes me think of, I watched The Handmaid's Tale, and that show it's a very good show, very dark, very disturbing, but very well done. And it's about this dystopian future where everyone has been stripped of their rights except for a few select elites, of course, white men. And they show, one of the things that the show does very well is that they do an artful job of using flashbacks to show kind of how they got to that point. So they have flashbacks where you see the main characters living life kind of like how we are now. They're in college, they're, dating, going out to restaurants, they're living normal lives just like we are now. But they're protesting. One of the flashbacks, they kind of show a really critical moment when they're protesting and there are all these heavily armed agents out there, just like we're seeing, exactly what we are seeing on the streets here. And one of the agents then fires an actual bullet into one of the protesters, and then they start shooting the protesters. And all I can say is that it feels like that's the next step.
Right.
We are one step away from that.
Right, I think we're already there, Nico.
They're firing rubber bullets. They're firing tear gas. Tear gas is illegal in war. Yeah. Right. You are not allowed to use tear gas in war against your militaristic enemies. It is illegal. And they are using tear gas on our own citizens. Like, the war has been declared against the citizens. And so this just goes against everything I've ever learned about this country, that this is the Constitution and our freedoms, and the government is, for the people, by the people. Right. And the people are saying, we have a problem. And instead of listening to the people and addressing the problems, they are turning the military against the public, against the citizens. And it's just a highly dangerous situation that just, everything that we know of the United States, everything that we know is completely at risk. Yeah. We're already crushing on civil liberties.
I mean, if you look at the people, he had an interview, Trump. And so he started to list leaders that he felt were very smart and intelligent. And he said, of course, Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi Jinping. He said
Yeah.
those people, dictators. He didn't
Mhm.
mention anything about Angela Merkel or Macron. He mentioned none of them, those people, because
Oh,
he
yeah.
doesn't view them as highly
Do you
respected.
remember when he wanted to have his military parade? Remember when that was a thing? And
Yeah. And the
he
thing
wants
is
to be a dictator.
he wants to
be a
so
dictator.
bad, so bad. I mean, it's a shame. And I feel as though like his favorite president is Andrew Jackson. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know about him. It's crazy.
Right.
So
yeah, it's concerning, especially if this expands outside of Portland into other cities. It's going to get real sketchy here in the good old US of A. So yeah, we just have to keep our eyes open and see what happens here. I tell you, I say this all the time, November cannot get here soon enough.
hurry.
We have got to get this psychopath out of office. We have to.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to something a little bit lighter, because woo, that just
sucks the wind out of you talking about that stuff.
it's so terrifying.
Yeah.
Bleu. I can't even say it without laughing.
This is my boy, by the way. I love Bleu.
Oh, really? So he's
yeah.
shooting guard for the Clippers.
Yeah.
So Bleu has been down in Orlando with the rest of the NBA in the bubble, bubbling it up. And he had an excused absence from the bubble to attend the funeral services of a close family friend. However, while he was on his trip, on his excused absence, his friend, rapper Jack Harlow, tweeted a picture of the two of them at one of our prize establishments here in Atlanta, Magic City, which happens to be just a couple of blocks that way, right around the corner from my house.
The best restaurant in Atlanta, apparently. Right,
exactly. So so he tweets this picture of them at Magic City, and of course the internet erupts like, oh, he's supposed to be in the bubble. What's he doing in Magic City? So then his boy tries to clean it up. He deletes the picture and he's like, oh, that was an old picture. I just miss him, blah, blah, blah. But then like he had to go ahead and delete that real quick because people quickly pointed out that the mask that Bleu was wearing was a mask that he got where? At the bubble in Orlando. So this was not an old picture. This was current. Jack Harlow deleted that tweet because he was lying at that point. So Bleu said, he had to go through an interview now with the NBA staff and the people that are responsible for keeping them all safe. And he said, he's like, I wasn't partying. There was no entertainment going on at the club. I was there because it's my favorite restaurant, which I will say he did. A tweet has resurfaced that he posted in 2018 of him also saying that he loves the food at Magic City. And there's actually a dish, like some wings or something on the menu that are named after him. So this is his spot. This is his spot. But here's where the issue is. He's going to have to now quarantine for 10 days. He's going to miss 2 games because of this. And at first, when you first told me about this, Kenny, I was like, I mean, what's the big deal? Like, if he's going to have to quarantine, he's going to have to quarantine. So he had to go to a funeral, he might as well have some fun. But what I didn't know at that time was that there are varying levels of quarantine. So if they assess that your activities are at a certain level of safety, then you might only have to quarantine for 4 days. These are the NBA rules. But if it's, if there's been some risky behavior that they think is a greater threat, then it could be 10 days or maybe even in some cases 14 days. So also, he was given the 10 days and now he's going to miss 2 games.
We should also make it very clear that Magic City is a strip club. So that's one of the reasons why this was kind of like, Doc Rivers is the head coach of the Clippers, and he's very strict. Like even during like normal seasons where you don't have a coronavirus outbreak and stuff like that, he's not keen on his players going to strip clubs and stuff like that. So so he is not happy about this situation, considering, and I also should note how good Lou Williams is. He
Wow.
he comes off the bench, but he's been six man of the year means that you're the best bench player in the NBA. That's what he's gotten that 3 times. He's a lightning rod off the bench. He can score 50 points any given night. He is ridiculous. And so for him to miss these games when they're in a crucial, the 2 best teams on the West are the Clippers and the Lakers, both teams from LA. And it's one of them's probably going to be in the finals. That's the consensus. And so missing your best bench player, that's hurt. That hurts. Yeah. So I can understand. I get it, but I mean, man had to have his.
Well,
wings,
yeah,
so.
I changed my opinion on it. Like I said, once I learned about the varying levels of quarantine, I thought that it would be mandatory once he got back, regardless of what he did, that he would have a 14-day quarantine. That's what I thought, because that's just what the normal quarantine is. That's what the health experts always recommend. 14 days if you've potentially been exposed. But I guess he was being tested. He was being tested every single day that he was gone. So he doesn't have any known exposure, but it's a matter of assessing the risk. So now that I learned that, okay, he could have only had a 4-day quarantine if he had behaved properly, versus now he's going to miss 2 games. Then it's like, okay, and he knew that. The players know the rules. They know what's going on. Yeah. So he
just shouldn't have done it. Yeah.
Foolish.
And even Lou Will, unfortunately, he's kind of downplayed it too. He was just saying, like, everybody knows that's my favorite restaurant in Atlanta. He calls it a restaurant, ironically. And he said it wasn't about partying. It was about the wings. Chill out. And it's like, but still, when is it going to be about your team? So you got to take some ownership.
Right. I mean, even if there was no entertainment there, even if it wasn't a total, crazy party atmosphere, it's like, if you're living in a bubble, dude, for a reason. So if you really have to go to a family funeral, do that, go back to your hotel.
Call a friend to get those wings, right?
Yeah, and now the team is going to pay the price, so.
Yeah.
Lou. I mean, we've talked multiple times, I don't think on the podcast, just about, how long have they been in the bubble? A couple of weeks, maybe? Yeah. Like, it hasn't even been that long, and there's already been, like, so many issues and people sneaking people in, ordering food from places they shouldn't be getting food from. And it's just like, to me, it's kind of like maturity.
But the NBA is always a soap opera. So I 100% expect this. So it's going to continue to be a soap opera.
I'm not like a super basketball fan, so at least the antics are kind of more interesting and entertaining to me.
Believe me, you'll get more. I'm sure they're on the way.
When do the games start? The 31st?
The 31st, yep.
Okay.
So we should be seeing
Have
them
you
this
been
week.
watching any of the scrimmages?
Yeah, I've watched a few. They haven't really been all that exciting because they're not really playing hard. So I'm probably going to wait until when is it? Friday? I think Friday's the first games. I think I'll definitely be paying attention when Friday hits.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll have to see how the Clippers do. Sans Lou.
Sans, right. But I think it'll only be possibly for a week, unless he has it, which I hope he doesn't. But
yeah. Hopefully not. I mean, again, he's been testing every day, so chances are he's good, but just, kind of a foolish mistake.
Right. Pretty funny, though.
Yeah, definitely. We needed that levity. When you got stuff like Trump and Portland and Corona going on, I'll take a little mess up from Lou.
Sometimes you need some wings from Magic City when all this is happening. So
hey, Magic City, like I said, is just a couple blocks. It's right around the corner from my house. Now, where I used to eat? I used to eat at the Cheetah. Their restaurant, Alluvia, is like,
like
4 or 5 star. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah. I've had lobster there at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and just amazing meals. So I mean, very often that is the thing that strip clubs do, is they have really good food because it's just another draw for people. So maybe I don't eat wings, but maybe I'll check out.
I'm sure there's something
the rest of the restaurant
on Lou Will's on his word,
on his recommendation. Anyway, right. Kenny, I think that's all I got for today.
All right, girl. Well, it's time to wrap it up. I've got to go and get my mother from the airport, so we're going to end this pretty rapidly, but I love everyone. And we'll have more for you next week. All right, we've reset the week.
Right.
We'll see you next week.
All right. Peace.
Peace.